Ladies and sinners, welcome to another Tuesday evening edition of the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. We're back at it again, folks. Every Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where we talk all things Vegas sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. Get at us on our Twitter forums at SinCity_IESR, at Cale_Henderson, which is my personal. You guys can review any of our shows by visiting these podcast players: Spreaker Podcast Player, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Good Pods, Castbox, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Podchaser, and Giasvan. I still don't think I'm pronouncing that right, but I added some flair, at least, to the mispronunciation. Regardless, you guys want to get a fix on our shows, you want to review us, that's the way to do it. Go to those podcasts. I listen to our show on Spotify. It sounds great. iHeartRadio sounds great. Apple Podcasts, great. Make sure you have it refreshed and you guys get the new episode every Tuesday or every Wednesday morning if you can't catch the Tuesday. Where, again, we talk all things Raiders sports. Adam Karnick chimes in, host of Chi-Town Weekly and the co-host of the Neutral Zone. Says, hello, Cale. Hello, Adam. Great to hear from you, man. Being a Bears fan, I assume you were hiding under a rock. Good news is you're not the only team that's fighting for that number one draft pick. Taryn Rodriguez chimes in. Good evening, Cale. Have an awesome show. Taryn being the best teammate in history. Thanks, brother. Larry B, punk-ass Raiders. Yeah, good thing we have an explicit rating. It's all good. It's all good, Larry. I got some interesting statistics for you tonight when we dive into those Raiders. Stuff that'll kind of be alarming to you. Guarantee it. But it's not things that you haven't heard before, because you already know I'm on top of it when it comes to those statistics, brother. Go future Vegas MLB team. Yeah. I mean, they're taking steps, man. Listen. I've been up to date with that. A's bought land back in April. Rob Manfred waived all relocation fees, and literally all Major League Baseball has to do, all the A's have to do, is stop messing around, say yes to the deal, because it's a very lucrative deal. And I'm glad you brought that up. Well, let's touch base on that, right? So the deal was pretty simple. It amounts to close to $500 million is what the city is willing to essentially provide to make this relocation happen. The A's it's $250 million. Yep. Again, it's worth up to $500 million with all of the incentives and stuff that kick in, percentage points that they get by owning the team name rights and leasing back the stadium. Once it's completed, it's like a super, super cheap lease for the A's. So they can make money, and then a lot of that money, again, they're going to make a ton of money. And it's what Vegas is willing to basically gift the A's to say yes to coming down. And the A's are legitimately asking for $250 million more in cash. So the project is going to be like $1.25 billion-ish to build a ballpark in Vegas. The A's are willing to basically pony up $1 billion of their own money. Las Vegas, about $250 million in cash, and then incentives up to $500 million if they make it work. And the A's just aren't budging. And this is not a surprise because the Oakland A's are absolutely stupid. They've been stupid. They signed a 10-year lease because they were worried they would have a ballpark, one of the crappiest stadiums, football or baseball, in history. They just wanted that long-term contract. They wanted that cheap deal. Oakland is an absolute pit. Listen, if you have love for Oakland, I respect it, man. I'm a Las Vegas Raiders fan. Before that, I was an Oakland Raiders fan. I've been a Raiders fan since I was 7 years old. I'm 32 now. Okay? I put in my time. And I can tell you that Oakland changed tremendously. It is an absolute pit. Pit of misery. Right? Bud Light can sponsor our show anytime they want. JK, but seriously. Anyway. Pit of misery is what Oakland is. For sports teams. They've lost like 4 major sports teams in no time. and the A's are going to be another one. I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to happen anytime soon. In April, again, the A's bought land for a future ballpark, about 49 acres of land. Um, and that was reported by MajorLeagueBaseball.com. A's unveil the renderings of the new Las Vegas ballpark back in May, and legislation was signed. With legislation signed, Major League Baseball will begin lengthy approval options. Again, legislation comes out to be about Joe Lombardi signed legislation granting about $380 million in public financing, $130 million more than what they were originally offering. Yet A's are still being a pain in the butt, and they wanted $500 million. Like they're steadfast, like they're. It's almost like in their mind they think that the A's are just worth that much, and they're absolutely crazy. Um, I hope they change that green and gold. It'd be super cool. I mean, actually, it kind of makes sense because that's color of money. It'd be super dope if they become black and gold, but then I think they'd have to worry about the Pirates and the conflict there. But yeah, I seen the renderings of the ballpark. It looks absolutely gorgeous. Um, you could see that on the Associated Press. It was an article back on June 15th written by Ronald Blum, basically verifying that $380 million was legislation that was signed by the Nevada governor Joe Lombardo. Um, they feel sorry for the Oakland fans, uh, but it is what it is. The only thing that's kind of being held up is the A's ownership. We'll see what the A's ownership tend to do, but Oakland A's stadium deal wins final legislative approval in Nevada as MLB weighs move to Las Vegas. So it's going to be a lengthy process to get them moved, but it's going to happen because Major League Baseball is desperate to get them out of their crappy situation. Nevada legislature on Wednesday approved, and this is back in June 15th when this was written by the Associated Press, providing taxpayer money for a proposed $1.5 billion 30,000 seat ballpark with a retractable roof, which is something you basically need in Vegas. The new venue would be close to Allegiant Stadium, where the NFL's Oakland Raiders moved in 2020, and T-Mobile Arena, where the NHL's expansion Golden Knights started play in 2017. Obviously, the passing of legislation in Nevada is really, really important, said Manfred. Now all we are waiting on, basically, is the agreement between Major League Baseball and the A's. And I can tell you guys, in previous articles, we touched base on this about a couple months ago. Manfred and Major League Baseball and um, honestly the television companies that air games were getting pretty frustrated because this is something that could be huge. Stadium could be ready as early as 2028. So we're looking at 5 years to build, and that's not bad. 5 years to build a top of the top of the food chain type ballpark. Um, they'll be able to house the AAA Las Vegas Aviators. So obviously they'll probably be a feeder here in the upcoming years. And then here's an alarming stat, right? New stadium would likely open as early as 2028 at the earliest. Before then, a possible home is the 10,000 seats. Yeah, so the Las Vegas ballpark, basically, where the AAA Las Vegas Aviators play. That is where they're suggesting the A's play for about a year or two while they build the ballpark. And Oakland is only averaging 9,076 fans per game, so um, 1/3 of the average of 27,000 by the league average. Pretty sad. I do think there'd be a boost. I mean, think about it. Like, look what happened with the Raiders. They went from being worth $970 million in Oakland to now $4.8 billion in 4 years in Vegas, and they're one of the highest tickets. They're always sold out. Visiting fans travel a ton. I think this will be a destination for baseball fans, and it's great news. Larry B, you're spot on. It's amazing news for Major League Baseball. I haven't heard much on the NBA. Honestly, haven't heard much on the NBA. So if there's something man, you should probably let me know, right? I haven't heard. I know NBA's eyeing expansion teams in two major cities. I know that they'd love to get one back in Seattle. I think that that's something that they've been thinking about for a while. Um, But it wouldn't surprise me if Vegas and Seattle are the destinations they're looking for. But let's look here. As of July 11th, Sports Illustrated wrote, NBA's eyeing future expansion teams in two major cities. Las Vegas and Seattle were the two cities mentioned. So there's a possibility that could happen too. And the NFL, honestly, is we got to give credit to the Golden Knights and the NHL for making it happen. But let's be real. Do you guys think that two other major sports entities, two other major leagues would have been so aggressive in the last couple of years if the Raiders haven't proven so successful? No way. NFL's a license to print money. We've said that 100 times on the show, and it won't change. So exciting news. I mean, we're just waiting on this Vegas baseball team to be approved officially by Major League Baseball. Once it is, I think it's going to be huge. Las Vegas A's. That does sound pretty great, honestly. I hope they do a slight color change. I love the gold. So the Athletics, I love the gold. I would like to see more black. I mean, keep the green and gold. Don't get me wrong, but add some black in there, man, or have some really dope, alternate unis that you can use that are black and gold with some green stripes or something like that. Just show pizzazz, man. Don't just be the boring ass A's, because you kind of want to do a remodel of that franchise. And moving to Vegas is going to be big for the A's too, from a competitive standpoint. Again, no state income taxes in Vegas, in Nevada. So you're going to attract more free agents. The other thing is, if they have the same kind of net worth, expansion that we saw the Raiders have, and it won't be that drastic, but if they go from being worth what they are now to $2 billion, that changes your competitive, because everybody knows baseball is not a salary cap league. It's just not. The richer teams tend to do better. It's a fact. Unless you're very good at developing your farm system. Even so, the A's are a perfect example of a team that they've done a good job of developing players in certain years. It may have taken a decade, but they did a good job in certain years, and they were extremely competitive until they got to the postseason. Moneyball. That's why they had their own show made, their own movie made. You need a very special type of farm system to compete with some of the money that's out there. The Dodgers, the Yankees, the Red Sox, although they're not as good this year, but the Giants. You guys get what I'm saying. You need payroll, and moving to Vegas with the ticket sales, with the increase in revenue, it's going to help a ton. No state income tax, big contracts maybe being signed in Vegas, and maybe, even if the Vegas contracts were to double right now, they're going to see massive improvements on their roster because they are one of the cheapest teams in the league. So it should be interesting. Really excited. Yeah, and you're right, Adam. Vegas A's doesn't quite roll off the tongue. I like it. Las Vegas A's, I like it. I think it's perfect. Honestly, Oakland A's is cool. Don't get me wrong, but Las Vegas A's sounds good. But you're right. If they did a name change, it better be cool. It wouldn't be the Slots. What would it be? Mafia? Nah, you don't want to do that. I think the A's is fine. Stick with the A's. We're going to go to a quick break. When we get back, we're going to dive right into the Lady Aces, who are absolutely kicking ass, taking names in the playoffs. They have a game that just started on ESPN. It's live. We'll have updates throughout the rest of the show. Or throughout the rest of the hour, and then we're going to hop into our Las Vegas Raiders. Got a lot to talk about. Sunday Night Football recap, Josh McDaniels' record, some statistics that are quite alarming, Jimmy G on concussion protocol, all that when we get back here on the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, sports fans. It's me, your boy Larry B, and I want to walk you through the world of sports. No, not just the mainstream major TV deal type sports, although those are important too. But let me be your guide through your journey of all sports, from college to the pros, the minors, and everything in between. Each week, we are talking sports galore with true diehards just like you from a hardcore fan's perspective that's sure to quench your thirst around leagues you may know all too well and some you may even discover here. That's right, sports fans. If you love sports of all kinds, enjoy hearing amazing sports stories, and respect all sports because you know how difficult any of them can be to play or compete in, then this is your show. Join me, your boy Larry B, on the defining moment each week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and let the sports come to you.
What's happening, sports fans? Are you a fan of Southern California sports? Are you looking for a show hotter than a hot summer day in California? Then look no further than the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, where I talk about all things Southern California sports. That's right, all sports teams from Southern California. From the hard-hitting tackles of the NFL, to the killer crossovers and big three-pointers of the NBA and WNBA, to the grand slams of the MLB, to the bone-chilling goals of the NHL, and to the booming kicks of the MLS, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show has it all for you. Oh, and let us not forget about the college sports as well. So join me, Taryn Rodriguez, every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's going on, football fans? This is Muir, boy Larry B, inviting you to join myself, Colin Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at IE Sports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head prime-time face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
Everybody, this is Taryn Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the '08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies,
And your one-timers,
you wicked wristas.
and be sure to protect your five-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
Welcome back to the second half of the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. You guys can catch us every Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where we talk all things Vegas sports. If you can't tune into the live show, guess what? We have avenues for you. A bunch of avenues for you. You guys can review our show every Wednesday morning. You guys can add it to your favorites list on any of these podcast players. But we have Spreaker Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Good Pods, CastBox, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Podchaser, and Giosfan. I swear I'm not pronouncing that right. Larry, you can tell me if I'm pronouncing it right. I'm probably not. But still, Giosfan. It's fun. I'm messing it up though. I know I am. It's horrible. Sponsor read, sponsor alert. Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm Single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, no MSG, Uncle Roger would not approve, no sodium nitrate, low in sugar, and high in protein. This is some of the best jerky you can get your hands on, and for a limited time, you could win 4 tickets to see the Storm or 4 bags of jerky. All you have to do is visit planetjerky.net, place your order, follow Planet Jerky at Plant Jerky, and DM them that you bought your jerky from hearing this ad. You will then be entered in a raffle that ends on Tuesday, August 1st. Once again, huge shout out to our sponsor, Planet Jerky, Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet. And while we're at it, we got to talk about our platform, IE Sports Radio. For the last 9 years, IE Sports Radio has brought you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok to keep up to date with the latest in sports with our shows. Also, check out IESportsRadio.com for sports news, the IE Sports Radio blog, our Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month, pages dedicated to each podcast on the network, our IE Sports Radio community forum, and stop by the store and check out the latest merch. Thank you for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. Got Adam chiming in. Vegas A's doesn't. Oh, we've talked about it. No, don't change the name. unless you got something really catchy. The Mafia probably sounds terrible. Haven't heard much from Larry B from a little bit, other than saying go Aces. No joke. Great segue as always, Larry. Aces are playing the Wings tonight in Las Vegas in the T-Mobile Arena. Currently hold a lead. Kelsey Plume is at the free throw line. Aces have not been beaten so far in the playoffs. And we've talked about it all year, man. They're just strong. Led by Aja Wilson, who's averaging almost 30 points a game. Been an absolute beast for that matter. Kelsey Plume, the newly wife of Darren Waller, former Raider, tight end. She's a star in her own right, averaging over 17 points a game, almost 10 assists a game. I mean, double-digit assists a game. Look, this Aces team just looks dominant. One of the surprising ones, it isn't Aja Wilson because she's probably the best player in WNBA. There's just no way around it. It's Candace Parker, and how effective she has been. Even she's like 38 years old, and she's been absolutely killing it on the boards. Done a great job of giving the Lady Aces extra possessions by rebounding. I just watched her offensive rebound. She does a great job. Ooh, the Wings are playing very, very aggressive defense. And got a turnover because of it. Kelsey Plume running with the basketball. Transition. Wings. Layup. 24-18 Aces. We'll keep you guys up to date as we go. But, man, Adam chimes in saying, I was holding out hope the Sky would take one game from the Aces. Dude, that is the only team in Chicago that's actually winning right now, isn't it? The Sky. They're like the only ones you guys can trust. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, Chicago Sky didn't have a chance. I mean, here were the scores. 87-59, 92-70. It is kind of crazy that it's a 3-game series. Best of 3, but still. And then Lady Aces played the Wings. Was it 2 nights ago? Won 97-83. Currently live at the T-Mobile Arena with a lead. Man. These ladies know how to play basketball. Oh, they got a foul. 26-18 is the lead. We'll keep you guys up to date as the day goes on, but the Lady Aces are absolutely dominant. They've been kicking ass, taking names. We've talked about it all year. We called it before the season even started. We said, I don't know if anybody can touch this team. I don't know if any other women WNBA team can touch the Lady Aces right now. They're on a roll. They have one of the best squads in the game. They're in their prime. I mean, they could win again next year. I'm calling it now. There's a possible three-peat on the rise, man. I think they win it this year to defend their title. They win 2 in a row, and I think they win their 3rd in a row next year. Like, they're still young. Aja Wilson is still kicking ass and taking names. None of these ladies have fallen off. Jackie Young, Aja Wilson, Kelsey Plume. If you hold those big 3 together, you're looking at a scary, talented team. And I don't see any other team in the WNBA right now that can compete with those ladies. It's just not happening. So, Lady Aces are kicking ass, taking names, and I don't know if anybody's going to beat them. I mean, they finished 34-6 in the Western Conference. And if we're being real, they clinched the playoffs. They clinched a playoff spot a month and a half before the season ended. They were just trying to win as many games as possible to verify they were the number 1 seed. And they probably had that one 3 weeks left in the season. Because you saw a string of losses. Usually that doesn't happen until you're trying to rest players. And they look rested. Again, dominant. Absolutely dominant so far. End of the first, Aces up 26-18. Aces the number 1 seed playing the Wings, the number 4 seed. Gotta love it. Big lead. Let's see if they can keep it going. If they win tonight, because I don't believe this might be another 3-game series. It might not be till the next one where we have a 5-game series. I could be wrong, but I believe we're looking at if they win tonight. It's probably best of 5. But dominant defense, man. Dominant defense. Great on the boards, extra possessions. There's no surprise whatsoever that the Lady Aces are currently in the lead with at the end of the first period. 26-18. 26-18, led by Aja Wilson, high score right now. Transitioning over to a other Vegas team that just can't seem to get out of its own way and actually win some games. The Las Vegas Raiders. Drama. Let's go ahead and start with the drama because there's always drama, right? Late flags in Sunday night. You got Raiders fans pointing fingers all over again. Oh, the NFL just has something against us. It always happens. I'm not even trying to get into that. The big one right now is Chandler Jones. You guys heard it here. Chandler Jones, defensive end. He's probably going to be a Pro Bowler at some point because he has over 100 sacks. Right now, he'd have the most sacks active in the league if he was playing. But Chandler Jones is a well-respected defensive end for his talent. He's having what appears to be a mental breakdown. And I hate to say that. I say it loosely. I don't say it loosely. I say it with as much care as possible. It seems as though there's a lot going on in Chandler Jones' life. A lot of speculation. A lot of messages on Twitter, man, and Instagram. Like, he's just letting out the business. And if you guys want to take a look at that, you can. At one point, kind of accused the owner of the Raiders of touching his goddaughter in unwanted ways. Just a lot going on, man. There's never a season without drama for the Raiders. Honestly, never a season without drama. The drama last year was your genius coach that just couldn't seem to, grasp that he had a decent franchise quarterback, shipped him off, chased him out. Chased out the franchise leading thrower of the football for the Raiders. Year before that, the Henry Ruggs and John Gruden incidents. Man, it just feels like year after year the Raiders have something to talk about. That just doesn't – it's just not human, man. It doesn't make sense. So that's the drama for right now. I hope Chandler Jones is getting the help he needs. It sounds like, according to ESPN, Raiders Chandler Jones says he was hospitalized against his will, meaning people showed up at his house, essentially cuffed him, took him to the hospital to get to, I would assume it's a mental facility to get evaluated. He's stating he hasn't done anything. So just a lot going on, man. And yeah. Says he was taken from home and placed in a facility. There's a lot of red flags, man. It doesn't look good. Like all of the Instagram stuff and like there are Instagram posts basically stating he wouldn't release information if they let him play and all that jazz and pay him. There's just a lot going on. And if some of the things he says are true, if anything he's saying is true, he needs to get the authorities involved because obviously something needs to happen if that's what's happening. But if they're not true and the allegations are false, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, if you're Mark Davis, do you sue for defamation? Just a lot going on. Again, and only in Raiders fashion would this happen. Only in Raiders fashion would this happen. It's crazy. Absolutely nuts. But it just seems like there's something on a year-to-year basis. Now, the odds of the Raiders firing Josh McDaniels, I think they're plus 225. They're some of the best odds in the league. Like, I think the second best odds in the league for a coach to get fired. It's the belief he's probably going to get fired. Even with his big contract, it's the belief he could be fired after this year at this point. It's just discombobulated, man. Look at all the crumbs that are starting to add up. And we've been ahead of it, man. We've been ahead of it all from the very beginning. You guys have heard it here first. I was on his bandwagon when he was hired. I'm like, man, let's give this a shot. You guys heard it here. I blew up his offense. Said, we're going to have a great offense. If he gives Derek Carr a chance and he can find a way to get the ball to pass catchers or to our playmakers, we'll be fine. As long as he can hide the defense. He always has a top-rated rushing offense. I thought he'd come in and revamp the offensive line. I was completely wrong, right? Did we have a decent offense? Yeah, we were like ranked 12th and 11th in yards per game and score. That's not bad. You can win like that. Just not enough games, especially when your defense is one of the worst in the league. That's something Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler haven't fixed, unfortunately. The reality is this, man. Then you point in the offseason to the survey, NFLPA survey. The Raiders were ranked second to worst. Their coaching staff was ranked second to worst in the league as far as will they listen to players, do they take care of their players. They work some of the egregious hours watching film and everything like that compared to other teams, and they were losing. So they were studying longer, watching more film, probably doing more practice time than what they were supposed to. They just can't prove it right now. And the Raiders still lost. So it kind of just goes back to Josh McDaniels' history, right? And I know you guys know I'm not a big fan of him anymore. I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid. I stopped drinking the Kool-Aid 5 games into the season last year. I was very disappointed. I thought I'd see a drastic turnaround, and we didn't see it. Even towards the end of the year, like there wasn't really massive improvement. We just saw a guy that just appears to be a snake. Like he's trying to do something, or he had a long-term plan hatched to like build the team the way he wanted to build it, instead of just taking a team that was in the playoffs the year before and lost to the eventual Super Bowl representative of the AFC, Cincinnati Bengals, by less than a touchdown. 4th and goal, right? He couldn't even take that team the next year to the playoffs after making improvements like adding Devontae Adams. It's crazy. Absolutely nuts. Let's look back even further. Here's some statistics for you. And this is before we get into that Sunday night recap. Better yet, let's do the recap real quick. And then I'll give you guys the statistics that kind of supports what I've been saying for months. I think Josh McDaniels has to go. I think he's an absolute joke. And you guys will see why. Raiders played their Sunday night football game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Although the score indicates one way, it feels as though like that game wasn't close. If you watch the film, it's like the Steelers fronts just dominated the game, right? It wasn't until the second half where the Raiders started getting some actual like push on the offensive line in the rush game. And even then, I feel like the Steelers kind of laid off a little bit. TJ Watt was absolutely dominant. That Steelers defense is very, very good. Had 3 interceptions, something we'll touch base on a little bit later. Jimmy Garoppolo absolutely got murked most of the night. I mean, the guy was just getting hit left and right. It's just not looking good, man. And it sounds like Jimmy Garoppolo could be in concussion protocol. So we could be seeing Aiden O'Connell very soon. Much sooner than we think. Honestly, if we're looking at it, if we're being real, Aiden O'Connell might be Josh McDaniels' only chance to stay the head coach. Because if the head coach has a young rookie that's promising and has a decent season to close out the year, it might give the Raiders brass something to think like, oh, maybe we should give him one more year to develop this young guy who's on a rookie contract and see if we can build around him. The Brock Purdy effect, right? The Tom Brady effect. Look what happened with him. You want to build around a rookie contract. It's just hard to find those quarterbacks. Aiden O'Connell looked like a dude in the preseason, but the speed is completely different when you have a bunch of starters on the other end playing defense against you. Yes, there's no film. There's no tape on Aiden O'Connell as of right now. Josh McDaniels could 100% protect him. I don't know if he can. I don't know if he will, but he could protect him. It's just kind of crazy, man. It's kind of crazy how much the Raiders struggled the other night. They were close. They were in it. And then it comes down to this. You get a fresh set of downs. You drive it into basically, a goal-to-go situation. It's like 4th and 8 essentially, right? You're on the 9. You have to get to the 1 to get a first down. And the Raiders elect to kick a field goal. You're running out of opportunities. You have to score twice. You have to have 2 possessions anyway. I'm sorry, the 4-yard line. Correct. I will correct myself. The 4-yard line. You can pin the Steelers on the 4-yard line if you don't convert that 4th down touchdown. But they kick a field goal. Terrible decision. Awful decision. The dude just kind of stands by it. The worst thing about the dude is Josh McDaniels has no problem throwing the defense under the bus like the defense was the problem. They held the Steelers to 23 points? The defense did a great job. Hey, Josh McDaniels, you're supposed to be this offensive genius, this mastermind, a guy that averaged more than 28 points a game when Tom Brady was his quarterback. I don't know. How about your offense score some points? Let's try that, genius Josh. Shout out to Wi-Fi Willie for saying that. He gave him that nickname, Genius Josh. He's an absolute joke, man. And we'll get further into that in a little bit, but it's ridiculous to think this. Larry B chimes in, the O-line sucks. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. Larry, I've been saying this for months. I was told I was crazy because PFF came out with an article saying that the Raiders were a top 10 line in the league last year. No, they weren't. Josh Jacobs had 1,600 yards rushing, or more than 1,600 yards rushing last year. 1,300 of those yards were after contact. Average point of contact was half a yard upfield, meaning the O-line has never been giving a push. The O-line was boosted to top 10 because they had a top running back in the league. They had a leading rusher in the NFL. It boosted the scores. I don't know how PFF got away with it, but it's kind of ridiculous. And I like PFF. I like what they do. But yes, Adam, you are right. PFF stats are questionable at best. It just depends on who's writing them. But sometimes it feels like they just hire anybody. And honestly, anybody that's really good at PFF is getting hired away by major networks because they did start something that's pretty profound. It's just kind of crazy, like the quality. Like it's just so up and down. Adam says, why do you think Belichick's assistants have all struggled as head coaches? Charlie Weiss, Romeo Cannell, Eric Mangini, Matt Patricia. It's a system thing. You know, I think Bill hires guys that are a fit in ways that will benefit the culture that he's building. I think that Bill, and I think Josh McDaniels actually said this before he was hired, or after he got hired. He said he stayed because Bill offered to show him the keys. Like Bill offered to show him more insights on how to be a head coach, more in depth. I think Bill's kind of shut off with that. I think he wants his coaches to come in and do their jobs, do what they're hired to do. He's not necessarily interested in their growth. He's interested in running a team that wins games. That's all Bill cares about is the next win. Nick Saban's the same way. I think he cares about his assistants genuinely. I do think Nick Saban cares about his assistants, but I think their mindset's pretty similar. They're trying to win games. They're never bored because they win a lot. Maybe not recently for the Patriots, but the point is, Bill Belichick is probably the greatest coach we've ever seen on a sideline. Basically developed the dime defense back in the 80s to stop the 49ers. Won 2 Super Bowls as an assistant. He's won 6 Super Bowls as a head coach. I mean, the guy's probably the most decorated head coach we've ever seen in contact sports. You know, Phil Jackson obviously has the 11 rings in the NBA, but respectfully, that the NBA is totally different than the NFL. NFL is much harder to win. It's the ultimate team sport for a reason. So I think Bill has a system. People are hired, they're drafted, they're signed if they fit that system. Sometimes that system that you want to duplicate can't be duplicated elsewhere. I think Bill's just was far ahead of his time. He may be getting older. Maybe the Patriots just aren't the team that we remember them to be. They are 1-2, but they are looking better than they did last year, that's for sure. Bill O'Brien's helping out with that a ton. But you can tell, like, Belichick has more of an influence on this team. He's always had an influence on this franchise, and he should get all the respect in the world. Unfortunately, I don't know if his assistants have really been brought along the way that you'd expect them to, because when there's that many misses, you just kind of wonder, like, what is Bill not teaching? What is Bill taking them under their wing? Are they getting hired because of the success of Bill Belichick and the Patriots? The short answer is yes on that one. But I just don't know if these guys, because some people, man, they just don't know how to build culture. And most of these guys that they're getting hired, it's to a team that's not very good. It's to a team that's losing, i.e. McDaniels to the Raiders. Now, actually, that's not. I'll take that back. The Raiders were a playoff team. But the culture's crap. The drama's crap. The stuff that happens in a Raiders organization, you just don't see anywhere else in the league. It's crap. Matt Patricia with the Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions were garbage. Eric Mangini with the Jets. They were garbage. Romeo Crennel. I think he had multiple stints. I think he had a stint with the Chiefs. I think he also had a stint with the Cleveland Browns. Again, both teams at the time were garbage. They were bad. They were rebuilding. Charlie Weiss with the Chiefs, I think. Does that sound right? I think it was. I think it was Charlie Weiss with the Chiefs, something like that. Didn't work out. It was bad. It's just a theme, man. You know, it is what it is. McDaniels is probably the most decorated assistant. He was on staff for years, almost 2 decades. Won 5 Super Bowls as the OC, 1 as the quarterbacks coach basically under Charlie Weiss when they won their first one, when Brady and them won the first one. He's been around forever. You think he would have learned some nuggets. He obviously hasn't. The one thing he did learn was how to cheat. He did a great job of hiring somebody to film practices when he was with the Broncos. They were 6-0. And that brings us to this, man. Josh McDaniels. Can you guys guess what a coach that's making roughly over $8 million a year, can you guess what his winning percentage is? Can you guys guess what his record is? Josh McDaniels, in 4 years of being a head coach, this is including the 3 games this year, but 4 years total, 2009, 2010, 2022, 2023. 4 years. He is 18-30. He's coached 48 games. 37.5% win rate. Man is making more than $8 million a year, and his team is currently 1-2 this year, finished 6-11 last year, and the guy hasn't had a 500 season or a winning season ever in his head coaching career, but dude hasn't won consistently since the beginning of his tenure at the Broncos, and he was caught cheating. Went 6-0 to start the year, went like 2-17 the rest of his career there. Sorry. Went 5-17 for the rest of his career there. It's just crazy to me, man. Takes over a playoff team last year. Goes 6-11. Very disappointing. Right now they're 1-2. Josh McDaniels is a joke. I have no problem saying this. I've had no problem saying this. I think the guys, some people are just meant to be coordinators. Some people are just meant to be soulless objects that just kind of fit a cog in the system. Watch the guy go back to New England and win a couple more Super Bowls. Like, it just works. But the reality is the reality. Weiss went the college route. Notre Dame was his first stop. Then I think he wound up at Kansas State. Okay. You're right. Yep. Notre Dame, because he had the Brady Quinn days. The Shark was his wide receiver. Totally. Sark. What was his name? Yeah. Really, really good team. Then he wound up with Kansas State. I don't know if that's right. Because Bill Snyder had been there for years. There's no way Charlie Weiss was dethroning Bill Snyder. But I get where you're coming from, man. I think you're right. He did get to like a smaller D1 college or a smaller Power 5 college after that. For some reason in my mind, I thought Charlie Weiss was a head coach in the NFL. I guess I was wrong. But yeah, that's what we're looking at. Here's some shocking stats for you. So before we close out the show, the Raiders right now. Again, we're talking about Genius Josh's team. Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels have had 2 off seasons to build this team. Over 90 transactions for that matter. 90. Yeah, you guys heard it here. 90 transactions the last 2 years to turn over this roster and develop it or make it into a roster that fits their systems. Last year, let's go ahead and talk about overall ranks. Win percentage, 26 last year. Okay, because we're the 26th best team. We're 6-11. It is what it is. Let's talk about offense. Yards per game, 22nd. Cool. Sorry. Yards per game. My bad. 12th. Points, 12th. Average points or league points, 8th. By the way, this was with Derek Carr at quarterback. Remember that? Genius Josh, right? Thanks, Adam. That wasn't me, by the way. I give Wi-Fi Willie he's a content creator. Does a great job on YouTube. I give him credit for that one. He has great stuff. It comes off like outlandish at times, but he does say some great stuff. Do I think he's as smart as me in the football? Nah, probably not. But he's amazing. He's an amazing content creator. I love him and Audrey. They do a great job. Shout out to him. But the offense, okay. They were 12th in yards, 12th in points. Let's see here. How about this for rushing offense? You had a rushing champion. You were 21st in attempts, 17th in yards somehow in rushing, because it's team total, obviously. 22nd in rushing touchdowns. Yards average, 6th. That's not surprising because Josh Jacobs averaged like 4.5 yards a carry last year. It was absolutely disgusting. Regardless, let's look at this year's stats. Through 3 games with Jimmy Garoppolo, you know, the guy that's supposed to be an upgrade over Derek Carr, who happens to be, even though he's injured, he happens to be on a winning team there in New Orleans. And let's be honest, if Derek Carr doesn't get hurt early in the third quarter against the Packers, they were driving, they were past midfield. Raiders win that game, or sorry, the Saints win that game. So Derek Carr's winning and he's smiling. And people who are supporters of Derek Carr are smiling too. Because Genius Josh said that Derek Carr was the problem. So what did he do? He went out and hired his porn star boy. I'm sorry, he went out and hired Jimmy Garoppolo. Signed him. First off, Jimmy had those injury issues going on in the offseason. So not a lot of chemistry was made between Devontae Adams and Jimmy G. Now, in some points of games, they've looked fantastic together. But other points, you can tell they're kind of off. They're not on it. Right? It is what it is. But porn star, I mean Jimmy G, this is what he does. Since he took over the offense, you know, this offense that was supposed to improve under Jimmy G, the Raiders are right now ranked 24th in yards per game in the league. Last year they were ranked 12th. Yes, there is a much larger sample size for Derek Carr, but guess what? That's still, you're twice as bad. You've digressed so badly, dude. Points per game, 29th. The Raiders haven't scored more than 18 points in a game so far this season. 3 games. They haven't scored 18 points once. And against, we're talking about, they played a Denver Broncos team that allowed 70 last week. 70. By the way, shout out to the Mile High, man. I was just giving you crap, dude. You're such a great sport. I literally showed up in his chat and just typed 70. He goes, Kale, don't come here with that energy, man. Beating him while he was down. But it's true story, man. The Raiders are so bad, they couldn't put up more than 17 points against the Denver Broncos. Yes, Adam. Genius Josh, a heralded offensive coordinator, a guy that was supposed to change everything with this Raiders team and the trajectory of its future, has no more than 18 points in 3 games with his Jimmy G as his quarterback. The guy he wanted. Let's be honest. The guy he wanted. He handpicked him. Right? They didn't want to go for Aaron Rodgers. They didn't want to follow through with that. No. Not that Aaron Rodgers would even be healthy, because our offensive line might be worse than the Jets. No, they got Jimmy G. They got the guy that had been in his offense for 5 years, knows the offense pretty well, and said, hey, we can improve with this guy. So they're 24th in yards, 29th in points, 29th in GVA, so like points average for the season, right? Look at rushing offense. They're worse than last year. They're 29th instead of 21st. Yards per game in rushing, 32nd. They're dead last in the league in rushing yards, guys. Dead last. Rushing touchdowns, 30th. You had the rushing champion last year. You're running the same run scheme. Somehow you can't find ways to run the ball. Genius Josh, man. Let's look at the defense, huh? Let's look at the defense. Everyone gives the defense crap for this Raiders team. It's been horrible for 2 decades. Don't get me wrong. It's been awful. Stats last year. 28th in yards per game allowed. 26th in points allowed. 32nd in tackling average. Okay, that sucks. That's horrible, right? Couldn't get worse. Seriously. This year, the Raiders right now are 18th in yards allowed per game. They improved 10 spots. Just 3 games into the season, they have improved 10 spots. And one could argue they could be better if the offense wasn't scoring less than 18 points a game. 24th in points allowed per game. So you've improved 2 spots through 3 games. And if we're being honest, again, the offense hasn't scored more than 18 points. What? And the second game, they got boat raced by the Bills. But again, the offense couldn't do anything. Great. Tackles average. Still pretty bad. 31st. We're just horrible at tackling. There's no way around that. The Raiders are in trouble, man. Josh McDaniels is 18-30. There's a possibility Jimmy G is hurt. And the only bright spot right now, other than Chandler Jones is getting help, and Mark Davis has the most epic bowl cut in the NFL. The only bright spot right now is that we could possibly get a C. Aiden O'Connell, because there's just no way Brian Hoyer starts over him. No way. You need to see what you have in Aiden O'Connell. He did very well in the preseason. He looked great. He was getting the ball out quick. He was decisive. I don't know how he'll survive. I don't know if we can protect him well enough, but he's got a good arm. I think he's got a good feel for what's going on, and teams don't have film on him. I think now's the time to put Aiden O'Connell in. If Jimmy G is truly in the concussion protocol, now's the time to take a look at Aiden O'Connell. That's the only bright spot. Otherwise, I've been saying this for the last 6 to 8 months. I think Josh McDaniels, if he doesn't have a winning season, okay, and it doesn't look like he's going to have it, if he doesn't have a winning season, I don't know how Mark Davis keeps him. Not with all this drama and all this crap that's going on. I do believe Dave Ziegler stays. I like the construction of the defense. I like the construction of the team right now. I don't like that they passed on Jalen Carter for Tyree Wilson, but I digress, right? And I'm going to hold on to that because Jalen Carter is only the highest ranked rookie in the league right now, and dude's only causing turnovers over there for Philadelphia. No big deal. But Tyree Wilson was just the way better pick, right? I'm salty, man. Very sorry about that. So salty. You guys know how it is, man. We just try to speak truth here. I'm not trying to be negative. I love this team. I want them to be great. You know, I saw a quote from Raider Honcho, another content creator on YouTube. He says he would have no problem. He would rather win and be wrong. Win and be wrong. He would much rather win and be wrong than lose and be right. Simple. And I'm in 100% agreement. There are not enough content creators that are telling you guys the truth, that are bringing facts, that are bringing statistics. These statistics I gave you guys tonight are by thefootballreference.com. Just so you guys have something you can look at, cite, so I'm not full of crap. You could also go to ESPN. All this stuff's there too. It's the reality. The Raiders are bad. The coaching staff is bad. When we lose, it's because we're outcoached. We lose often. So, what's that tell you? I just don't foresee Josh McDaniels a long-term option. And I think Mark Davis would be crazy to keep him at this point. And as of right now, the Raiders are basically battling for the number 1 overall pick, Caleb Williams, with the Bears. None other than Bears. It's just crazy how far this team has fallen. And I don't even know if fallen is, it's just how consistently bad we can be. The commitment to mediocrity continues, and the only person that can really step up and solve this right now is Mark Davis. And all the blame for the crap that's happened the last 10 years falls on him, right? All the crap that happened to Derek Carr, John Gruden, everybody else. Like, John Gruden did this crap himself, but everything else, he's oversaw all this stuff. He's got to step up, be a man, and find a way to fix all of this. I think he thought he was doing that with Josh McDaniels, fine. When the year's over and he has a losing season, cut bait, start over. Go after a proven coach. Get it done. This is the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. You guys can catch us every Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, here on Spreaker Radio. As always, folks, thank you for tuning in. Love, peace, and hair grease.